Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for a new episode of A New Go of New Home Sales. I'm your host, Anya Chrisanthon, and joining me today is a dear friend of mine, Chris Hartley, who happens to be area president for Hovnanian Homes. Welcome to the show, Chris.
So good to see you. So good to see you. As we talked about before we started this, you and I did our first podcast together 7 years ago, 2018. And I was thinking about it that I was guest number 7. And I remember seeing your face everywhere. And I'm like, who in the world is this girl? And where is she coming from? And I just love that you completely invented yourself. And to see where you are 7 years later, you are the definition of having a vision of where you want to be and just figuring it out as you go. And it's been amazing to see. So congratulations to you on 7 awesome years.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I was also reflecting back on our first episode together and thinking back how far I've come for sure. I don't know if it was the vision so much as I was not afraid to put myself out there. I don't know if I necessarily had the vision of what that was going to be, but I think it is important piece of advice for anybody who is trying something is you just have to start doing stuff. It's almost like the spaghetti method where like you just do it and see what sticks and what's resonating, right? Like I happen to be one of the first people who was podcasting. Now everybody and their mother has a podcast, which is awesome. But back then I was if one of the very few, if not the first podcast in new construction industry. It certainly put me on the map. So I appreciate it. And then
Wow.
likewise with you, you've had quite a journey and look at you now. So actually for listeners who may not know who you are, which I don't know if that's even possible, because you are a rock star and a celebrity in your own right when it comes to home building industry. So why don't you tell us about your journey into home building and kind of what is it that you do now?
Sure. I'm going to take a brief second to go back to something you said, is that you said that you weren't sure exactly what your path was or what you're going to do, that you just put in the effort. And I think that goes with anything in life, especially as we hire new people, is heart and hustle. If you put your heart and you have a lot of heart and you know that you want to be successful and you're willing to put in that work, there's nothing holding you back. And that is something that I just feel. I had a breakfast meeting this morning and I talked about how I just feel like the hustle is missing from so many today when this industry can truly change your life.
Right.
And for those that really take that to heart and grab a hold of it and allow this career and this path that we have in home building to take us to places that nobody even knew was possible, because there are incomes that can be made in this industry that are only being made by doctors and lawyers and professional athletes. I know new home salespeople here in DFW that make well over $1.5 million a year, which is insane. And they are not skilled in hitting a baseball or catching a pass or throwing a touchdown or any of those things. And they're just equally as successful. So I do love your heart and hustle on that. A little bit about me. I've been doing this now. I have a countdown app and it's crazy. I have a countdown app for everything. And my countdown app actually has how long I've been in this industry. And I started in the industry. This is going to be crazy because I'm looking at it right now. 7,777 days ago, which is weird that it's 4 sevens today, which means that I've been doing this for 21 years, 3 months, 16 days, 12 hours, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds, which is how crazy my countdown app gets. But it's something that I've been doing this directly out of college. I went to University of Kansas, and they were at the University of Kansas. Pulte Homes was handing out $100,000 bills with their logo on it. And it said, as a new home sales consultant, you can make this your first year. What's funny is that I was a journalism student. I had no desire to do journalism in any shape or form. That was just the only path at the University of Kansas that had sales emphasis in it. So I went that direction. And the average journalism student coming out of college at that time was making $36,000 a year. There was no way in the world I could afford to live, or anybody, at $36,000 a year. So when I saw somebody handing out $100,000 coupons, so to speak, I'm like, there's no way that this is possible. I'm very blessed through many interviews later to get that opportunity. And sure enough, I wasn't able to make $100,000 my first year because I started halfway through the year. But there wasn't a year after that first year that I, of course, didn't hit that and surpass that. So that's really how I got in the industry. But I've done this in Kansas and Missouri. I started Ashton Woods Homes from scratch in 2007, shut down that division in 2008. Ashton Woods moved me to Phoenix, Arizona in 2008 through 2010 at the height of the recession in one of the worst hit places. Probably the best learning experience I've ever had in my entire life was to see that. Turned around, moved to Kansas City, started my own business with two friends, had that for about 2 years, went through a divorce, quickly recognized and learned that I needed to go back to a company that was going to pay me an income rather than relying upon myself for that because it was still tough times. And then I've been in Texas ever since. So been here since 2012, got here in 2012, and I've been with Hovnanian now for 5 years. Became an area president here about 6 months ago. And what's funny, I actually had one of my sales guys on the team said, "Wow, that just happened for you so quick. You got the president job so quick." And I laughed at the time and I said, "Yeah, it's only taken me 7,750 days to get here," was when he made that comment. And it just reminds you that there's no such thing as an overnight anything, right? There's just time and time that's put into something. You may not see the hustle and the grind that's going in. You may, the person that you are today, the person that you were in 2018, you hustled to get to where you were. I may have only heard your name for the first time in 2018, but that doesn't mean that you didn't put everything you had into getting there to have your name be heard. So that's just really just a short story of who I am. I couldn't imagine doing anything in the world other than home building. I'm absolutely obsessed with what this opportunity does, not only for us as a career, but the fact that we get to put people in homes, which is where all really great things in life happen. That's where your kids take their first steps. It's where prom photos are done. It's where memories are made. We forget that way too much, and we have to remind ourselves how cool of a job we have.
Absolutely. So, Chris, going back to the very beginning when you said the hustle and you think that's missing from so many people that you see today, do you think it's generational thing? Is it like a Gen Z thing where they're entering a workforce and maybe we've had this culture of manifested and if you hustle, you repel it, like all that stuff, or what's happening?
I ask myself that a lot because now I'm 44 years of age, and you and I both have won an award for NAHB One to Watch, which was the person under the age of 40 that was up and coming for the National Association of Home Builders. And it's funny being an alumni of 40 under 40, which basically just means we're old now, is all that is. But you look at that and you say, okay, do we make that comment because we are no longer younger? And now we look at things a little bit differently, or is that truly what's happening today? Is there really this feeling of they should automatically be in charge? Because I talked to my dad, who was he was an executive with the railroad for 42 years is how long he was there. And he said that was the same story when he was up and coming, that the generation before him all thought that his generation wanted it the easy way. And then he looked at it when he got to be what would be my age today and the generation after him. I think it's just something that yes and no. We forget what it's like to not think that we can handle everything. I remember I got my first managing opportunity at the age of 25. I wanted to be the youngest VP of sales in Pulte history. And I know at that time it was 26 and I was 25. I just got promoted. The opportunity was available in Kansas City. I was like, I'm going to get that job. Looking back on it at the age of 44, I was nowhere near ready to lead as a VP of sales. I was nowhere near ready to be a division president up until I was given the opportunity. I think that's both a good and a bad thing. I think it's good in the sense that we always want to achieve more. I think it's bad that in some instances, if you don't have somebody there to ground you and have you understand that you are not ready, and to have honest feedback with you that you have a long way to go before you're there, and not to do that to deflate your excitement, but to say, hey, let's be more realistic about this, because when the opportunity comes, we want you to be successful. We want you to be able to take that and really strive rather than fail miserably, which in reality, if we all got things when we wanted them rather than when we were ready for them, 99% of us would probably fail.
Absolutely. When do we go for something? And I think that also plays into a little bit of a differences between men and women, where if you talk to females, oftentimes they say, oh, I'm looking at this job. I check off 10 out of 12 things, but I don't think I'm ready. Where men look at the same position and they check off 2 out of 10 and they're like, yes, I'm ready. So it is with that personal confidence, which I think hopefully now with the movement, more women are feeling empowered. And as we see, more women are actually graduating from college than men. And now we see more single females purchasing homes. which is great. So it is an interesting paradox there. So I am a big believer in going for things that maybe just outside the reach, right? You never know until you go for it. And there was a great post on social media. A girl said she was like in high school, and she was like, you know what? I don't have that great of grades or whatever, but she's like, let me just try to apply to Harvard and like all the other Ivy League schools. And she was waitlisted for Harvard, which is like, for her, it was like, oh my God, what else can I do? So she just took that year and she went for opportunities that were outside her reach. And it was amazing what kind of things she was able to land, like from jobs to opportunities. Like it's crazy. So I am a big believer in going for it, even if you're a little bit underqualified, because sometimes that's what it's going to take, is like learning on the job. But obviously know your limits, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're making fool of yourself and letting people down.
Bring up some good points on that. And there's something to be said, and I will say this too, and this is why I absolutely love, and I know initially we were going to talk about the International Builder Show, and we still can. It's finding the people that you want to aspire to be, grabbing a hold of their coattails and not letting go. There's that old saying, never take advice from someone who you wouldn't want to switch positions with. Everybody has an opinion on what you can and cannot accomplish in life, right? And oftentimes it's the people that are closest to you that'll try to protect you from going after something great because they don't want to see you fail. But if you can find somebody that has the job or the position or you admire, and you can make some sort of a relationship with, or ask them to mentor you, or see if you can just follow along in their footsteps, it's amazing how much more those mentors will allow you to hang on to them and not only assist you in getting there, but they're going to help you grow significantly faster. I have a boss right now, and he's not for everybody, but he is the best coach I've ever had in my entire life. And he has a different way of coaching and teaching than most. And for some, it doesn't work. But for me, I gravitate towards it. And he's been the best example that I have of learning to taking my position to the next step and to grow from there. And we had a conversation the other day, and he said, look, as you're taking over the division, as you're taking over in your role, you're going to do things in a way that I never would have done them, and I'm going to do things in a way that you would never do them. And that doesn't make it right or wrong. That just makes it different. At the end of the day, find you and what works for you, as long as the outcome is there and you can get people to follow you. Because how you lead is going to be very different than how I lead, and so on and so forth. But just have those mentors in place to assist you in getting there, and we'll help those people all day long. There's a difference between having somebody that's young and eager and annoying than having somebody that's young and eager and willing, right? So be that person that's willing. Don't be that person that's annoying, and recognize that the effort has to be put in for you to get that opportunity, and people will teach you along the way.
Yeah, there's a difference between entitlement, right, and just reaching outside the box, but willing to work for it hard.
100%.
So
yeah.
For sure. I absolutely agree with you on mentorship. I've been very lucky to have mentors in my career where I've thought, oh, you know what? I see this person, they're doing this in our industry. I would love to be doing that. Let me get in touch with them. And part of my, I don't want to say success getting mentors that I wanted was the podcast, the platform that it allowed me to just casually invite those people on and have those conversations that maybe otherwise I wouldn't have access to those people. So I would definitely strongly encourage you guys, if it doesn't matter where you are in your career, have those mentors, and every new stage will require that new different mentor for sure. Now, Chris, I think when I look back at your career, one of the things that really stands out to me is that you've always been known in our industry as a trailblazer when it comes to adopting new technology. So as far as I can look back and see you on stage talking about whether it was Atlas RTX with the chat feature when they first came out, or it was Enter Now with self-touring and all the success you've had with that. So my question to you is, why have you put such a big emphasis on technology, where, a lot of, especially larger builders, I feel like they have an attitude of, let's see what happens with that before we put our eggs in that basket, because it's risky.
It's so funny because I can look at this as pre-COVID and post-COVID, right? And so to your point, I started taking over. I was very blessed in 2013 to take over as vice president of sales for a private builder here in DFW. And the owner of that company, still a very dear friend today, he basically said, "You do whatever you want to do to run and manage this team and this company. Just make sure I make a lot of money and stay on budget." What was great about that is that they allowed us to hire some outside consulting firms to really assist us in our growth, because our end game was to turn around and sell the organization, which we actually sold our Las Vegas division to Century Communities in 2015 for an ungodly amount of money. And we sold our Dallas division to Tri Point Homes in 2018 for a really good sum as well. So we were successful in both ventures in doing this. But we did hire Do You Convert at one time. And Kevin Oakley gave the best advice I had ever received in regards to setting up budgets. And that was, give yourself a 10% research line item inside of your budget and put this in there. So if you have a $100,000 budget, which obviously is not going to be very much for anybody, but take 10% of that, or $10,000, and you put that aside in your line item, it is classified for research. That way, when a new company is up and coming and they have something that you want to do, you're not going and asking your owner or your division president or whatever it is for additional funds, because the first thing they're going to do is tell you no, or they're going to tell you to cut it from somewhere else to pay for it. You already have it budgeted in. So if you already have this budget budgeted in, you already know that you're going to be able to do some cool and neat things going on in the future. The biggest thing for you is, which cool thing are you going to do? Because there is no short supply of really cool technologies out there, and significantly more today than what there was in 2015. But what I had done is, I had actually very quickly, after I realized how much fun it was to spend that 10% research budget, is we grew that budget up to about 22% of our total budget. And so we really put a big chunk into the fact that we knew that we were going to need to evolve. And the reason being is that we're located in Dallas, Fort Worth. It's the most competitive housing market in the country. We do the most permits in the entire country, and we have the most home builders, both public and private, than anywhere else in the country. There's 78 builders here of size. So for instance, my home builder here at 1,000 units a year is not even in the top 10 in DFW, which is crazy. You take 1,000 units anywhere else and you are easily 1, 2, wherever it may be. So the market here is extremely competitive. So as a small private builder, I needed to take that opportunity and say, how can I separate myself from everybody else? And that was very simple. It was technology, because as you mentioned, these big public builders, which I'm a part of now, steering them around is oftentimes like steering the Titanic. It's very slow. Whereas the advantage of being private is that you can be small and nimble and you can make quick decisions. You can make quick decisions if you budget for those decisions. So as I started to watch the world evolve, right? Keep in mind that when Amazon started coming in, I started seeing people buying everything that they could have just at the touch of their finger, or facial recognition through Amazon, you name it. I recognized that we needed to evolve how we were doing things in home building, because really pre-COVID, this was an industry that did not evolve at all. It was the slowest thing possible. And it still blows my mind that there are builders who have black and white renderings on their website today. It drives me absolutely crazy. But I recognized that the way that people were doing things was changing, and that we needed to stand out and do things differently to evolve. So whether that was Atlas RTX with chatbot and text messaging, at the time Enter Now with unassisted entry. And what was crazy is that at one time, I'll never forget this, I had 110 locks with Enter Now, and COVID happened. And everybody in the world was wondering how in the hell they were going to get people inside their houses, and Enter Now couldn't get enough locks. And it was funny, my team and I are sitting there with 110 locks, like, we already got this because we've been doing this for 3 years now. And it was old news and old data to us. Fast forward to where I am today at a public builder, and I've been here for 5 years. The chief marketing officer and I, Ron Nelson, and our national VP of sales, Dana Spencer, we all have a really great working relationship. They knew that when they recruited me, I was known as being the technology guy that always wanted to try new things. You know, the division that gets to do all the new things at KHOV is my division, because I'm an early adapter. They know we will be an early adapter. The team has been built around early adapters to try the new technology to see how it works. And when it works out, we deploy it to the rest of the divisions and the departments around the company, which has just been awesome, because it's fun to be the first to do new things.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
it's not me today that gets to pick the new things to do. I can still have influence and say, hey, have you heard of this? Have you thought of this? But it is fun to have those things come to us first and really evolve that.
So I'm curious, what's on your radar now? Is there a technology that you guys are in the process of adapting right now, or that you're really paying close attention to that you'd like to try next?
So this goes back, and I actually talked about this at the Builder Show, and Mike Lyon coined this a long time ago, and he said technology will not replace the salesperson, but the salesperson that utilizes technology will replace the one that does not. And we've heard that for a long period of time. Basically, if you're going to be a dinosaur and a slow adopter, you are going to go ahead and exit right. You're just not going to be on the team much longer. So as we look at that, and as in home building is famous for this, and in probably any large industry, but this is the only one I know, we are really good at copying things that we see other builders do, right? We generally will see something out there and we'll be like, okay, that seems pretty cool, but give it 2 or 3 years and the cost will drastically come down, or give it 2 to 3 years and somebody else will have all of the negatives happen to them, and then we can come on when it's going well. So I'll tell you some things that we are working on here, and this is something that Novi Homes had jumped on a long time ago, right? The app-based system that Novi Homes utilizes. There's another one called Foundations that's around as well. We have our own version. I know MI Homes has their own version. I know Brookfield Residential has their own version, right? What you're seeing today is these amazing third-party companies that will come and white glove a service for you and skin it with your company's name on it, which is awesome. Your company does the same thing. Or you can try to build it in-house. What most large companies are recognizing that building it in-house takes a lot longer than what it is to just go ahead and transition it in, and it's just easier to plug and play. So that's something that KHOV is really working on right now, is plugging and playing. I would say the secondary thing that we're working on right now is through Only, which is and I'm sure you've heard of it. They were very much at the International Builder Show, and they've been around for a while, as they were a major sponsor at the Builder 100 event a couple of years ago. And Only is just a reservation system that goes on your website that you can reserve a home, and you can actually pay an earnest deposit, so to speak, on it. The thing that I love most about that is that it's a request for a reservation, right? So I think as salespeople, they freak out. Everybody's always so freaked out as, oh my gosh, people are going to take our jobs away from us. And next thing, AI is going to be selling houses. I think you and I both know. It goes back to the saying that technology is not going to replace the salesperson. It's going to assist the salesperson. But the salesperson that fights the use of the technology that's going to make you better is going to be a dinosaur. They are not going to have a job. And so Only is not here to take a reservation on your behalf and exit out a salesperson altogether. That's not it. It's a request for a reservation for that salesperson to get in touch, set the appointment, get it to go, send out the actual purchase agreement, and get it locked up. It's just one step to make your life easier. And I think if we can start recognizing that we shouldn't be afraid of technology, but embrace the technology, we're just going to make an experience better for so many more people so much quicker.
I 100% agree with you on that, especially with AI coming, and it's coming so quickly. I personally view the role of sales evolving in the sense that AI is going to take care of all the things for you, so to speak. It's like your personal assistant that takes care of all the bookings and back and forth and all this stuff. And then you're left to actually create those amazing experiences for your customer. And I really see the role of sales shifting from right now we're like earlier in the sales process, right? Like our handoff from marketing to sales happens pretty quickly, just because like right at OSC filling that gap, and like we're trying to get them offline as quickly as possible. I think with AI, people will stay online longer just because it is able to serve that personalized content, personalized conversations. So it's going to keep them longer in that funnel online. And then handoff to the salesperson may not actually happen until that sales contract itself. And so the role of a salesperson is going to be less of a trying to convince you to buy a home, because AI is doing that for you in a way that is not salesy, right? It's like a trusted assistant who is just serving all the information, providing all the answers, and they're unbiased. And then a salesperson, you have that entire journey from contract to close, and even post-close, where traditionally post contract, it was like you're nowhere to be found because you're chasing that next prospect.
Yeah.
But I think now it's going to be really, can you hold that hand throughout the entire process, make them feel taken care of, and really spend time building that relationship, understand why they're moving so that you can make them feel like, yes, this is the right house, this is the right decision, and just soothing them through the process. Because as we know, once you sign that contract, the customer satisfaction goes up and then it quickly goes down, up and down. So you really want to be there to smooth that customer journey, make sure that they're happy even as they receive the keys and going post purchase. And as you mentioned, you guys are starting to invest more and more money in that post purchase piece, right? What Novi's doing and Foundation is doing, that we're not just leaving customer hanging.
Yeah.
And again, it's an opportunity for a customer to leave a review and how happy they are. And
Yeah.
we know that post purchase piece with warranty, that also plays into it for a good 2 years pretty much after you
Yeah.
close on a home.
Yeah. You know, what I love about being a Hovnanian is, one, Ara Hovnanian, Alexander Hovnanian. I have direct access to them, talk to them on their cell phones. We communicate fairly regularly. Those two gentlemen take the fact that Ara's dad, Kevork, or Alexander's grandfather, Kevork, the last name of the company is still very much ingrained. We are a publicly traded home builder, but we are the largest family ran publicly traded home builder that's out there. There's a lot of pride in having the last name associated with everything that we do. And so when it comes to talking about technologies for home building and taking care of the customer, it does strike and it hurts when people will make a comment, oh, you're just with a big public builder, you could care less about the consumer, you only care about the shareholders. That could be the farthest thing from the truth, because without the individual homeowner, nothing else really matters, right? And so it's everything that we do is trying to do things for the good of the consumer to make their life easier, to make this decision better for them, and an easier way to actually get to that end result, which is moving into your home and being a happy homeowner. What's interesting about all of the technology is that what it really allows us to do is it's taking the mundane out of the salesperson's responsibility, which, let's be real, if you're a really good salesperson, you're god awful at everything else. That's just my opinion. You suck at paperwork, you suck at talking to the corporate office, you suck at doing, you're pretty much bad at everything else.
If you're bad at paperwork, you're pretty much guaranteed to be a really good salesperson.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Now, the worst thing is you can't be a bad salesperson and be bad at your paperwork. Like, we can't accept a double win.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what it brings it back to is, because it's taking away all the mundane, it is allowing you to truly focus on the customer and to make them feel unique and special. And I think that's where, like, you look at the Jeff Shores of the world with the 4-2 formula, you look at Ryan Taft with Story Getter, you look at Chad Sanchagran with focusing on betterment. You look at all of these things, and it's really designed for you to understand the consumer better and to understand their story, right? So if all the mundane is being taken care of, and this is what I talk about, and this is what I talk about in management, and this is what I talk about in relationships, and this is what I talk about with the sales team, is very simple. You need to make your customers feel seen, heard, loved, and appreciated. If
Yes.
we can have our customers feel those four things from us, you can build a unique bond that is going to have them choose you all day long. Because there is nothing physically different between a Hovnanian home to a Lennar home to a Horton home to a Taylor Morrison home to you name it. They all have four walls, windows, and a door. At the end of the day, it's a structure. It's the people that's going to guide you to the principle of having that customer select you and trusting you to take them through that process and to know that you're there to back them. And if AI can take care of all the mundane stuff, technology can take care of the stuff that we don't want to do and allow us to build that relationship and allow that person to feel special, then you are one step ahead. What frustrates me and irritates me so much about this industry, and I've said this from the time you and I first met, I think 70% of on-site salespeople are god awful at what they do. I think they're horrible. And I see this in my own personal life because I'm looking at buying a home today. And the home that I've been into, my ex-wife and I, we split in 2020. The home that I had bought was really a thing that I needed to get into quickly to get a house. Sales prices were going up through COVID. I needed a place for my girls and I to call home while they still had their place to call home with their mom. And the story of what I was going through was never even uncovered. The salesperson could care less. They could care less why I was in their sales office. Fast forward that 5 years today, and I'm in a very different environment, to the sense of I'm looking to build or buy the home that my little girls, the youngest one being 6, the oldest one being 9, are going to live in until they graduate high school. I'm looking for our next forever, right? But nowhere does anybody ever ask the question on what my story is or why I'm looking to buy a home. It is mind blowing to me today that we still have not figured out to make a connection. I looked at houses this weekend and not a single salesperson asked me, besides, what are you looking for? What's your price point? Okay. And my price point, I'm very blessed. It's good, right? It is good. And I'm looking for very simple stuff. So I'm saying, okay, 4 to 5 bedrooms. The girls each have to have their own bathroom with an area for them with their makeup vanities. And I can't stand looking at all the stuff all the time. And that's really the only requirement. But nobody ever asks the questions. And this weekend, going out with my little girls and the salespeople not even making a connection with them and asking them questions on them, what they're looking for. If you as a single dad, if you're looking for a way to connect with me, make my little girls feel special. And I guarantee you, my little girls will, hey, daddy, can we go back to XYZ?
Yes.
It's crazy to me.
Chris, what you're talking about is what AI is going to be able to do. Any AI can ask you how many bedrooms, what are the features you want, what is that? So when that comes, what is going to be your value proposition as a salesperson? Why would I keep you
Yeah.
in place where AI never gets sick, it never calls in because they're hungover, right? Like it's
Yeah.
always available 24/7. So what is your value proposition as a salesperson if it's just asking for the bedroom count?
You say that, and I'm totally going to write that down. I'm going to add that to the interview question. What is your value proposition of why you're better than AI?
I love that.
Because I have not been seeing that. And it is not, DFW is not an easy housing market right now. It is a difficult housing market because again, there's so many builders here. And for the longest time, we were behind on building and now we overbuilt. And so now we are selling inventory homes at a rapid discount. Everybody is across the town. And so what is separating you? At the end of the day, there's 50 home builders that are selling the same price of what I can afford, but what's going to make them stand out?
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
see anything yet, which is really sad.
Yeah. So as a people leader, I would say that is one thing that you can be doing is really giving free rein for your salespeople to find those genuine connections as AI takes over the mundane part, as you said.
Yeah. So
Chris,
good.
one question I have for you. Obviously, you've been implementing new technology for a really long time, and you have been bringing technology that can potentially, again, quote unquote, replace the salesperson, right? Like the enter nows of the world. It's essentially saying, hey, you can come in and tour without the salesperson there. Atlas RTX can have a chat without the salesperson being involved. So how do you, one, get your salespeople on board with the new technology, especially when it feels threatening to them, like AI will be threatening to them? And how do you actually enforce that people use the technology in your company?
Yeah. So this was always something that I used to get this question all the time, like, how can you get your team to adopt to the things that you're bringing forward? And we would have our early adopters. We wouldn't force anything upon, and still to this day, we don't force anything upon the entire team at one time because that's just asking for a recipe for disaster. So I have a sales team of 22 people right now, and there are 5 of them that love to be the early adapters for anything we do. They feel special that we bring it to them first because they know and appreciate the fact that we want honest feedback on what they're seeing. When they get it and they're talking about it in the sales rally about how great something is, then everybody else is, wait a second, I don't have that. How can I get that? So now it's not a thing where corporate threw this new initiative at me. It's now, wait a second, if Heather has this, or Danielle has this, or Nick has this, how do I get this? Because they're saying it's amazing and it's helping them sell houses. I want to sell more houses. How do I get it? And next thing, you have people asking for the technology. And when they're asking for something, they feel obligated to implement it because it's already been proven that it works. So if it doesn't work for them, they're the odd person out. And what are they doing to make it where it's not working? And so the team takes a real great approach initiative to it where they will help each other out. This is as easy as some of our social media posts and doing different types of reels or doing different types of follow-up or doing video emails or whatever it is. There really seems to be a sense of pride from these 5 to 6 individuals that kind of take the technology and grab a hold of it and want to teach it to everybody else. And then next thing you know, you have people that are older in age that you wouldn't think. We have a gal on our team, and I'm not going to list a name if she hears this, but she's not the person that you would expect to have figured out a new way of doing an Instagram reel. And she was
Mhm.
like, hey, can I tell you all something that I did? And because I've gotten so many of you reaching out to me on how I did this, and let me tell you. And I'm sitting there in the back of the room and I'm like, 2 years ago, she wanted nothing to do with this technology, but because it slowly found its way to her and she saw that it was successful, she's now saying, how do I make it even more successful? So, my general rule on that is do not throw all the technology at your entire team and say, do it, because nobody likes to be told to do anything. Bring it to early adapters, have them see what works for it, see what doesn't work for it, fix it, have them talk about it out loud and have the others hear about it and then ask to be a part of it. And then you implement the rest of it out.
I love that strategy. That's very smart of you. Not only you get to work out all the kind of kinks before you bring it mainstream to everybody, but you make everybody essentially ask for it. Hey, I want some of that. I want to sell more
Yep,
homes.
exactly.
So funny you mentioned video email. Of course, I have a flashback to Ask Ingrid, right? And how you guys were essentially the pioneers in video and pushing video to get more sales reps to use it, and the results that you were seeing from more personalization, right? Higher opening rates, etc. So I'm curious, what are like some of the non-negotiables for you when it comes to technology? As a sales rep, we expect that you use X, Y, and Z. Maybe I know I'm putting you totally on the spot, but maybe three things that you're like, okay, these are non-negotiable. You need to be doing these three things.
I love this question because I had this conversation this morning too. And it's so funny to me that when times are tough, people always use the word, you're micromanaging me, right? And it's funny. And I'll come back and I say, that's funny to me that your definition of micromanaging and my definition of micromanaging are very different because all I'm doing is I'm holding you accountable to the contract you already have on your employment agreement, which says you're going to do X, Y, Z. So
Mhm.
you signed it, you agreed to it. It was never an issue before. All of a sudden, it's an issue. If you're doing these things, then it's not micromanaging, it's just accountability. Would you agree? And they're like, yeah. And then I'll come back and say, isn't everything I'm holding you accountable for proven to be successful for you in the past? And they're like, yeah. And it's, then why would you not want to do it? It's breaking it down to the silliness of the statement of being micromanaged. You're not being micromanaged, you're being held accountable. So I kind of want to throw that out there. But we do have accountability measurements here. For us, it's follow-up. We require 25 text messages, 25 phone calls, and 25 emails a week, minimum per person. The company requires 8 social media posts a month. We require 10 social media posts a month. There's just different things that we are doing. In my opinion, they're minimal to what the people that are making 600, $800,000 a year selling homes for me are doing because they see that it's working. That's
Right.
the thing. That's the thing that comes back to when we were originally talking about it earlier is that you have such an amazing opportunity in this industry if you hustle to make an amount of money that is truly life-changing for you and your family. Like you've been given a gift and an opportunity. Whatever you do with it is completely up to you. You can either take it and run with it and make insanely amazing amounts of money, or you can just sit there and be average. But I like to think that we don't hire average, right? We're okay with average going to go work someplace else.
So, Chris, I'm curious, how has your definition of success changed looking back when you first started in home building and you're out of college, eager college student, right? Like eager to make money. So maybe your definition of success was driving a flashy car or having lots of money in the bank. I'm curious, has it shifted for you over the years, and what is it now?
You have some great questions. I was having this conversation with Elena Money Garmin the other day on Instagram. We were going back and forth about how rarely we look back on what we've accomplished in life and high-fived ourselves for doing it. Right? We're so caught up in like the next thing and moving on and getting that next opportunity, the next promotion, the next pay raise, whatever it is, that we forget to celebrate where we are. And I use an example being an alumni over the now over 40. I got to sit back and have lunch not long ago with two younger gentlemen that were with the Dallas Builder Association. And they said, you've just accomplished so much. Did you ever think you would be where you are at this age? And I said, I thought I'd be a lot farther. And I made that comment. They're like, really? That's being harsh on yourself. And I was like, it is being harsh on myself. And it's whether it was an unrealistic expectation or maybe I just had that mindset earlier on that I should be farther earlier or whatever it was. But, I saw this thing one time that Really your career evolves from really the time that you're 20 to 30 is the time that you're really hustling and you're trying to get as many opportunities as possible. And really from 30 to 40, you're building up as many accolades as possible, right? You're trying to win as many awards. And I got them on my bookshelf. I have them behind me, whatever it is, right? And after the age of 40, it just tapers off where you're giving back, right? That's when the opportunity is, when you give back. So 20 to 30, you're hustling to make a name for yourself. 30 to 40, you're trying to get as many awards as possible. And 40 and beyond is when you give back. So, yes, success has changed definitions for me so many times. I used to think it was all about having the flashy cars and the houses and the clothes, to winning the awards and being recognized and being called one of the most well-known people in home building, to today, I just want my team to be successful. I want to make sure everybody's happy. I want to spend as much time as I can with my little girls, and I want to be able to provide them a life that I never thought I could provide them before. But I also want them to also have a dad that is 100% present when I'm home. And I could tell you, really, until the age of 40, it was dad was always present, but I was never really present. And I think that's a lesson in, well, at least for me, and a lesson in divorce, and just a lesson in general with recognizing that at any given moment, your life can change and you can no longer be here. And what's really most important, right? We all have stress at work and it's always going to be here, but we work to enjoy life. We can't forget that second part, which is to enjoy the life. So I think for me, that's where success has really changed. Is yes, while you're here and you have to be here X amount of hours per day, I want you to bust your ass and work your ass off and give me the most amount that you can. But I want you to do that because when you go home, I want you to have a life too. Because if you don't, it doesn't make it, it's irrelevant.
That's great. I think for most of us, it has changed, right? Even now, sometimes I go out in whatever car I'm going to drive and thinking like I wouldn't get caught dead like in this car before, right? And I'm like, I don't know if it's like being older, not caring, like, okay, not have a car payment, where before it had to be like the latest, greatest thing in the world, right? And now, yeah, it's okay. I enjoy that slow morning. If my daughter is feeling a little lazy and wants to sleep in a little bit past the official time to go to school, right?
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I can do that. And I'm in a position to be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, we can lolly dally an extra hour
Yeah.
today. Like that's
That's the true definition of success. Yeah, I've seen two things, and I actually sent this one to a friend of mine this weekend, and it was a Jim Carrey quote, and it said, "If you're not willing to live a life for 2 years that nobody would want to live a life that everybody would want to live, then you care too much about what people think." You have to put sacrifices aside. Sometimes you have to drive the car that you don't want to, or live in the house you don't want to set yourself and your family up for a life that you can have. And I guarantee anybody that has success in their life has seen that evolve over time, where they've really hustled to get to a certain point, and then once they got to that certain point, it's really allowed them to do more, give
I
back
agree
more.
with you. Now, Chris, I know we could be here for 5 more hours, but I want to be respectful of your time. I know you're super busy. So, as we wrap up today, is there anything that I didn't ask you, or do you think would be important for our listeners to understand as they go through 2025 and beyond?
I had a really great session with Jeff Shore and Molly Elkman and Harrison while we were there in the Builder Show. And one of the things that we talked about was, at least my portion, is what home means to you. And I think as we get very caught up in the busyness of this industry, as we get caught up in the stress of this industry, I think you need to take a moment and you need to pause on what that word means to you. I think you need to pause and see what that word means to your children and to your spouse. And I think you need to understand what that word means to your employees, because if you are not working towards that common goal of giving them what that word means to them, then I think you're missing out on the entire meaning of everything that we do. And that includes our homeowners too, because our homeowners are just not a name on a backlog report. And we go over their name and we give them a ranking, we go next. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for those people to afford the home that they're buying, no matter what price point there was. And we can't take that for granted, that we have the most awesome opportunity ever and that somebody chose us to build them their dream house. So that's just something, we go too fast in this industry and we don't ever pause to reflect on how awesome of an opportunity we have.
Yes, so I'm going to tie it up with a quote that I said at the International Builder Show, and that's, you want to become irreplaceable in the world where AI can help them find their house, but only you can help them find their home,
Love that.
right?
Love that. And I heard you absolutely crushed the sales rally. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. If you guys want to watch it, if you had the ticket to IBS but didn't get to enjoy it, the replays are available now. So also check out Chris's session, and I'll be sure to link that in our show notes. Now, Chris, if somebody wants to connect with you personally, maybe if you're accepting any more mentorship opportunities or just have a question for you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
yeah, so what's crazy is I used to be really involved on LinkedIn and I really backed out of that altogether. So I'll just give my phone number, and if somebody wants to text me, they absolutely can. Just don't spam me to death.
Well, I was gonna say
Yeah,
this.
which is it's 913-982-6589. If I'm with my girls, I won't respond immediately, but if I'm not, I'll respond and I'll definitely get back to you.
I'll link it, but you guys make sure you don't abuse that. That's very valuable right there. Chris, thank you so very much for being
Thank
a guest
you.
today. I love our chats. I was bummed that we didn't get to spend much time at the Builder Show or anywhere I see you. I'm always like, oh, let me get my hug in and
That's
at
always
least
great to see
get
you.
some goodness from you, and always enjoy our conversations. And I really value our friendship, and I enjoy watching your progress. I think, yeah, we started both in the unknown and
Yeah.
watching each other accomplish what we've accomplished and go through this experience together. And it's been a pleasure. So
It's been a pleasure on my side as well. I love your heart and I love your hustle, so keep it going.
thank you. Likewise. All right, Chris, I will see you soon. Maybe at Jeff Shores or hopefully some other event this summer.
Hopefully soon.
All right. Bye.